The beautiful Blue Pool, also known as Tamolitch, is a popular destination of the Mackenzie River. The bright blue photogenic pool draws so many people to it every year. You wouldn't think of Blue Pool as a dangerous place, and that's why it is so dangerous. This has been the location of hundreds of injuries, rescues, and even some deaths. Join me in learning about Blue Pool and how to stay safe while enjoying this unique place. Blue Pool is part of the Mackenzie River. Inspired by the Chinook jargon word for bucket, it was renamed to Tamolitch in the 30s. About 1600 years ago, the nearby Belknap crater erupted and covered this part of the Mackenzie River. A similar nearby eruption formed a dam in the river, which eventually created Clear Lake. Instead of filling a valley with a lake, the river went under the lava flow here. This water becomes extra cold after flowing for miles without any sun exposure. The underground part of the Mackenzie River emerges at the base of Blue Pool. Being such a popular destination, parking is often overflowed out to the side of the highway. If the lot is overflowed, you probably want to pick another day and time to visit Blue Pool. A good amount of the parking is reserved to ensure that emergency vehicles can operate in time to save injured visitors. Emergency response teams get called here very often. Just in summer of 2020, there were 10 emergency rescue calls to Blue Pool. As so many things can and have gone wrong here, there are a lot of warnings and information at the trailhead. The trail to Blue Pool is a 4-mile round trip along the Mackenzie River. At the start of the hike is a good time to talk about the gear you should be bringing to Blue Pool. While a 2-mile hike in is easy to many people, it is important to be prepared for the worst. Accidents happen here and can turn an hour hike into an all-day or even overnight event. The 10 Essentials is a list of gear that would prepare you for most unexpected outdoor situations. This might seem like a little much for a 2-mile hike, but it is a good list to start with for any outdoor adventure. Unpredictable situations and weather happen, so it is best to have extra clothing with you. An extra layer or two, hat, gloves, rain shell can come in handy in many situations. A light source or two is essential for unexpected delays in your trip. A headlamp, your phone, and a way to charge them. Always pack an extra day's supply of food just in case. Items that provide a good amount of energy per their weight are preferred. Salty and easy to digest snacks work well in the outdoors. Sometimes your gear breaks, and it is important to be able to get it working and make it back to the trailhead. A multi-tool and something to patch things up can solve many problems. As emergencies happen often here, first aid kits come in very handy. A small and packable pre-built kit is a good start. You can remove and add things as necessary for each trip. Fire is always a good survival item to have and takes almost no space in your pack. This will come in handy on unplanned overnighters and dealing with hypothermia. People do get lost in areas you would think are easy to navigate. Something for navigation is always good to bring. Having one electronic and one non-electronic item is best. Without enough water, your body can't function. You can also bring a filter for emergencies and to lighten your pack. Some of the more extreme situations would benefit from bringing shelter. When dealing with hypothermia, this would help to warm the body back up. Sun exposure leads to long-term health problems, but also exhaustion, which will get you into trouble here. Sunglasses, hats, and sunscreen are a good idea on any trip. It never hurts to prepare, and these items could save you or someone else's life. As you get near the pool, there will be big cliffs between you and the river. The cliffs are one source of the many injuries here. Arriving at the beautiful blue pool, it is clear why everyone wants to see it. The bright blue water comes from underground where it is filtered and cooled. When the water comes out, it is too cold for microorganisms to grow, so it is a clear blue. Blue pool stays around 37 degrees year-round, which is another common cause of injury. Drugs and alcohol lead to a lot of emergencies at Blue Pool. Combined with dangerous terrain, these will lead to poor choices. The main dangers of this place are cliff jumping, falling, and hypothermia, or a combination of those three. The most common cause of injury at Blue Pool is falling. Large cliffs surround Blue Pool, and falling would cause a serious injury or fatality. With such a photogenic blue pool, everyone wants to get their best shot of it. Sometimes the desire for photography makes visitors forget about the risks. Many people get dangerously close to the cliff edge. The rocks can be very unstable, as well as mossy and slick. Others climb down the cliffs to get a closer look. Anything near these cliffs is very dangerous and often ends in serious injury. If you do survive the fall, you might also end up in the freezing water. Accidents can happen at any part of Blue Pool, so it is important to be cautious here. You might think that this could never happen to you, but the people that got injured all felt the same way. Being able to safely walk down to the water is important. It is a much better idea than jumping in, and someone down there could need your help one day. Even the safest way to walk down to the water is not all that safe. A slip could happen, or the ground could collapse under your step. After circling the cliffs, there is a steep and slippery downhill scramble to the bottom. If you are comfortable making the steep scramble, there is a nice little beach with a view at the bottom. This is the only way that I would recommend for seeing the base of Blue Pool. Some people come to Blue Pool to do cliff jumping. Cliff jumping is popular at many Oregon swimming holes for those seeking an adrenaline rush. I would recommend jumping into one of Oregon's many swimming holes that do not have freezing cold water. Between the cliff's edge and the pool is a slope of jagged rocks. Many injuries here have come from the cliff jumper not landing where they intended. Some jumpers hit the rocks and break bones while rolling down these cliffs. Blue Pool's depth is hard to measure just by looking at it. The edges of the pool are shallow, while the middle is 30 feet deep. Misjudging your jump can lead to injury or drowning. While accidents do happen, cliff jumping is a voluntary activity that leads to many rescue calls here every year. Cliff jumping here is a risk of your and others' lives, as well as the resources of volunteer rescue teams. Whether someone jumps or falls in, the water at Blue Pool can often lead to hypothermia. Clear and blue water in Oregon means that it is also dangerously cold. Hypothermia occurs when your body loses heat faster than it can produce it, and the body temperature falls below 95 degrees. If left untreated, hypothermia can be life-threatening. The risk of hypothermia is increased by dehydration and exhaustion. These things happen when hiking, jumping off cliffs, swimming, and climbing back up. Symptoms of hypothermia can include shivering, slow breathing, weak pulse, drowsiness, and loss of consciousness. Other than simply not jumping in, there are a few things you can do to prevent hypothermia. Having enough food and water in your body will help to produce heat. Avoid overworking and knowing when your body has had enough. Having extra warm and dry clothing to change into can help recovery. It is best to avoid cotton clothing, which absorbs water and takes a long time to dry. If you do end up getting hypothermia, a quick reaction is important. Hopefully, someone is around to pull you out of the water, as rescue crews are hours away. Any wet clothing would quickly cool the body and should be removed. Your shelter and extra layers come in handy to warm the body back up. Food and water can help reduce mild cases of hypothermia. CPR is necessary in some cases, but can cause harm if done incorrectly. There is not always someone around who knows how to deal with these emergency situations. While doing all of this immediate care, someone needs to call 911. Unfortunately, there is no cell service anywhere nearby. Someone needs to go back to the trailhead where there is an emergency payphone nearby. The injured person would need to wait for someone to hike back, make the call, then wait for the emergency response team to arrive and hike in. The mostly volunteer emergency response crews do great work at saving lives here. They have become as efficient as they can be at Blue Pool after so many calls every year. But the delay from hiking out, calling to report, and waiting makes injuries much more dangerous here. Not all emergency cases at Blue Pool end up surviving. There were deaths here in 2013 and 2015. One was from cliff jumping, and the other from slipping and falling. With such serious consequences, it is worth taking a bit of extra precaution here. One last bit of safety advice is to be sure to leave and get back to the car before dark. Hopefully you have a light source, food and water, and the other essentials in case you do end up leaving late. Blue Pool is a beautiful place that everyone should see. Even though it seems like an easy destination, accidents happen here so often. With a little extra caution and preparation, your trip to Blue Pool should be a success. Join me in the next video as we explore and learn more about Oregon's outdoors.